my biggest piece of advice ever is just lift those people up who even give you the light of day. Like how can you help anyone you're around, clients, friends, family? Like that's what our role is as humans. You know what I mean? Like to do that naturally. So mixing that in with your business is so key.
This is Creative Disruption, the intersection where entertainment, data, and creativity meet. Here's your hosts, Ricky Ray Butler and Derral Eves.
Now, welcome back to the Creative Disruption Podcast, where we talked about everything that's disrupting the industry and the individuals that's creating those ripples. And I'm joined by my partner in crime, Ricky Ray Butler. How you doing, Ricky?
I'm doing fantastic, Derral.
Doing good today?
Yes.
Dude, we're more consistent now. This is our second podcast of the year. How does that feel?
I know. Like, it's so funny. It's like people keep asking, like, so you know that podcast that you used to do? I'm like, no, we're still doing it. We just don't make it the timing a priority.
But new priority this year, which is exciting. Now, we're just jumping right into it because we got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of great things that are happening. Why don't you introduce our guest today?
Yes, today we are very honored to have Ben Haggerty. So Ben Haggerty is a rising star in the creative space. He's a creator. He's also a creative director. He's worked with talent from like a Casey Neistat on YouTube to a Jay-Z and Beyonce, as well as has done a documentary for Chris Brown. Ben, welcome.
Hey guys. Thanks for having me. That's a solid intro.
There you go. Ricky has one quality. He knows how to talk things up very well. So did he do a good job? Did he do a good job?
Well, yes. And I'm proud of your guys' consistency for hitting number 2. So let's do it.
There we go.
and Ben, it was the last year we did a collaboration together, doing that tailgate video with the NFL and Madden. And everyone that worked with you on that was just so impressed with your creative direction and ability to just make that come to life.
Oh, thank you. I don't know what to say to that. That's cool. It was such a fun project, and like the team worked so hard around the clock between our production team, all the agencies, EA, everyone that participated, and even the talent like went above and beyond to make that thing come to life, because it was for those who are listening who don't know, it was like this insane 4.5-day turnaround project for the NFL and EA Sports, and to make like an hour-long pregame show for the NFL. And we were working literally around the clock. I didn't sleep for 4.5 days straight. And I'm dead serious about that. And it
reflects. It reflects in the video. It starts out really, really good, but come day for it.
It was fun.
No, I love it. I love these projects that you kind of get thrown on us, and you're like, okay, you only have a few days to get it together. Like, what are we going to do? And I think that's the magic. I think when people are talking the magic of filmmaking or the magic of content creation, it's seeing people that are really experts at their craft coming together and just kind of helping each other out get to that finish line. And I've seen it time and time again. Could you do a project like that without a team, and how would that handicap you if you had to do it all by yourself?
No, it literally would have been impossible to do it by myself. And I think that was a good thing to realize early on in my career, is the need for a team and developing a team and a network. Because there's so many, especially like my path, I came in as a one-man band and had to like run that route for quite a while before I was able to develop an audience or a network of people that I could lean on, or clients. I had to be the person that was shooting everything. I had to be the person that was producing it, coming up with the plans, the locations, the playing with my budget, going and handling the long night of editing right after the shoot or whatever it may be, and finishing that. And that took a while. But once I was able to start, delegating and handing things off to people that I trusted, life just got better, and projects could get bigger, and you could do more of them, at a repeatable pace, I guess. So team is so crucial. And so impossible to do that one for sure. It was almost impossible to do with our team. It was like so crazy.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So a quick question. So you've been able to kind of evolve, as a creative director or someone that's really pushing the envelope. Like, what was the first big step for you? I think there's a lot of people listening to this podcast that are, a one-man band. They're trying to take it to that next level. What was that for you? What was that first big step?
I moved from Iowa to Los Angeles. So, in the cornfield state, there ain't a lot going on in this industry.
But a lot of grit.
Yeah. And to me, it was a great place for me to learn and to become obsessed with this industry and creating in general, and had cameras and my homies and music, and we were always making content there. And I eventually knew that it was important to make the step to like move to Los Angeles. And I don't know what it was, just random trips out here, the movies, whatever. You just knew that there was things happening here all the time, and I wanted to be a part of it and contribute to it. And so once I did make that move, I made an opportunity. I had a friend who let me sleep on his floor. I saved up a bunch of money for a couple months before I moved out, willing to lose it all. It was like the best casino run I could have ever made, because, it could have went south real quick, and it almost did. But I just networked, and I found the right people immediately. And that was the first thing that I got put on, was the Chris Brown documentary. And so would that documentary have come? Would I have co-edited a documentary about one of the most controversial artists in the world had I stayed in Iowa? Probably not. It was about being in the room. It was about putting myself in those spaces and lifting those people up that I was working around. So definitely just moving was the first step that really changed my life.
No, I love that. And I think that's a really big thing I know Ricky's really good at too, is a lot of people, they focus in on their craft, and that is the essence of every living, breathing minute that they do is their craft, right? And they miss the true opportunity, which is networking. And I got to share something with Ricky, because a lot of people don't know this, but when he first started his business way back in the day, he always made it to the parties. He always got into the A-list parties that were happening in the industry. And we're like, what the freak? How are you getting into these things? Ricky, how did you get into those things? Come on, disclose. Because Ricky is an amazing networker. There's just no other way to explain that. But that was kind of key to his success.
My name for the entire, I'm from a very, I'm from the mountains of Utah, and I've always saw my name being Ricky Ray Butler as the biggest curse. Growing up around a lot of rednecks and cowboys, there's a lot of jokes that happen with the name, and it just it's a long, funny sounding name. When it comes, at least in the countryside. But as I got into entertainment, I realized that I was doing what everyone. I had to name what everyone else was trying to create, which was very unique. And I would just literally go to parties, whether it was at. I first learned how to do this at the Sundance Film Festival. Being from Utah, that was the only experience I could get into one of those types of parties. At least in
a pretty legendary
20s.
one.
And so I would go to the Sundance Film Festival and say, "My name is Ricky Ray Butler. Am I on the list?" And that little statement, not saying I was on the list or, convincing in any way, got me into, one out of, 3 parties. And
wow.
I did that in LA and New York. And that's where I started doing a lot of my early networking and entertainment. And I loved how you, Ben, said, it was the best casino run that you could have, because you going from Iowa to Los Angeles, you're jumping into the rat race. For those that aren't from Los Angeles or have spent a lot of time in Los Angeles, watching and listening to this podcast, every restaurant you go to, almost, a lot of people that work at that restaurant, whether it's, a busser or it's a valet person or a waiter, there's a good chance that they're in Los Angeles trying to, make their dreams come true and trying to make things happen. And there's just so much competition here. But what's interesting is, you see these stories consistently where people come from a place that's extremely opposite from Los Angeles, but with that unique perspective, potentially impacts the stuff that you're able to create and to do it in a different, unique way from your unique experience that helps you stick out. So how was it, going from the LA, sleeping on the floor of your friend's apartment, and then starting to, make a living for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that is so true. And it is crazy to be around. Honestly, that was one of my favorite parts about Uber because I didn't have a car. I didn't have a car basically the entire time I was out here till the beginning of COVID this year. I would just drive Uber everywhere. And I would meet so many people that just were pushing and trying to get that next level. And this was just their means. Like, I even have creative friends that would drive Uber. I'm like, oh my God, you're so talented. Like, and you're out here driving Uber. Like, could you imagine if you linked up with, and they would do it for strategy. Like I had a friend that's a musician out here that would drive Uber just during like the Grammys to try to drive artists. Like he would literally just try to drive artists to network and put his name out there. And I think that, finding your outlet, finding your way in, finding your way to kind of level up, like you said, is so crucial. And I think people need to think outside the box when it comes to that, because when you're here, people get complacent, and I think that can give you the upper hand if you have the ability to like just have constant drive and you're willing to go the extra mile. And I think that goes a long way here. But for me, it was just about finding my way to elevate the people that were around me. And luckily, I had a friend who dated a dude. That dude happened to be a music video director who was actually good, from Iowa. When someone's like, yeah, I'm dating a music video director, I'm like, what? Like, you just assume it's this garbage, like rap shit that we've been shooting in Iowa. But he was the real deal. He was doing, Nicki Minaj, Chris Brown, like all these top artists for like the biggest music video production company at the time. And she was dating him. And so we became friends through her being my best friend, and we're always on FaceTime, and I'm meeting this dude, and this dude's like, oh, cool. My girlfriend likes you, so I'm going to talk to you. And I would be like, yo, check out this drone video I just did in Iowa of like a fucking solar panel or some shit, like nothing cool, but like the shot was amazing. He was like, wow, that's really good. And, as I moved out here and built my relationship with him, not only did he bring me into like assistant, I was literally his assistant on the Chris Brown documentary. I was getting him coffee. I was just sitting in and just amazed that I was in this room, seeing this exclusive footage and helping kind of like chime in on the story build. And that's where I saw my opportunity. I was like, yo, what about this? What about this? And he leaned into it. He's like, yo, those are great ideas. And eventually that turned into me co-editing that film. And I think like over the next year and a half, it was about how can I elevate and continue to elevate my homie Andrew Sandler. Shout out to Andrew Sandler. Illust director, producer, dude's a machine. How can I elevate his career? What can I do in this documentary to elevate you so that you win? Because if you win, there's more jobs to come. And I put that energy in every single day, not knowing that I was eventually going to get a co-editing credit. I didn't even know if I'd get a credit in general. I didn't even care. I could give two shits. I didn't ask about money. I didn't ask about anything. I barely got paid on that film. It was just because I was like this random person that just showed up every day. And they're like, we didn't plan for you in the budget. Who is this dude? And Andrew's like, I just need him around. Like, let's just keep this dude around. And over that, we started doing Chris Brown's music videos. We ended up doing Mary J. Blige's documentary because they saw what we were doing with Chris's documentary. So we did one about her. And like I said, I put in the energy to lift him up. If he does well, more jobs come. I keep getting work, and that turned true. And then eventually I had an opportunity to showcase my skill set creatively, and people started to see it. And then I bridged out, and then I built a network, and then I connected with all the people on set. So I knew who to call when I had a job coming up, or work with brands exclusively, or reach out to people. Like, I learned so much through that process, but it really was just, that's my biggest piece of advice ever, is just lift those people up who even give you the light of day. Like, how can you help anyone you're around? Clients, friends, family. Like, that's what our role is as humans, you know what I mean? Like, to do that naturally. So mixing that in with your business is so key. So
there's just something interesting about this that really resonates with me. You talk about two different things here that I think are so important to be successful, I think, in life, but also especially in entertainment. There's people that are creatives, or they come to LA and they just feel like they need to do it on their own, and they don't put the effort to really connect with other people or to network. And sometimes they think, okay, well, I don't want people to get the wrong idea that I'm trying to use them, etc. But the truth is, in Hollywood, in entertainment, I would even say in life, if you want to get to the point where you are becoming very successful and you get a lot more opportunities, you have to network. Like there's no, you just have to. There's no way to avoid that. But I want to call what you just described as networking with loyalty. So there's
that.
both having networking and then also having loyalty. And when you network with loyalty, you're empowering those that you're meeting with and helping them be successful at the same time as them helping you lift up and be successful. And so you mentioned, meeting this, director and producer and helping them win, because if they continue to progress, they will bring you with them. And that's something you can also learn at working, whether it's at Walmart or if it's working in corporate America or if you're in construction. If you work with your supervisor or your manager or the director or your leadership and you help them win and you're a team player, you bring everything to the table, that is just something that is going to help you in life on collaborating and doing teamwork. But, from your perspective, going out there, meeting with as many people as possible, and then, jumping on and joining forces and then being loyal to their cause. I mean, that's something that's just, invaluable and will always, make it so more people want to work with you.
Yeah, and I find it fascinating too, because it's like, Ben, were you able to do this? I mean, just by the basis of first networking and then bringing value, and you didn't expect anything out of return. You wanted that experience, the experience of working with people. They can kind of see how loyal you are to them, but how hungry. And I think there's a lot of people that are hungry in the industry, but they think about themselves instead of the project or how to do a bigger strategic play to really be integrated. Because, when you have success, regardless of where it's at, there's people that will take it. Hey, it was just me, and I just did this whole thing, but yet they have thousands of people doing it. Right. And then you have people that are like, no, it's like this team, like, Ben helped out with the edit. So we're going to give him a credit for co-editing. I mean, that right there says a lot for the person that you were working with, because they saw the value. They wanted to make sure you had some cred. So that's where the credit came from. But it came back down to, you doing your job of a PA, right? Grabbing the coffee, getting there early, anticipating them. And then at the appropriate times, offering ideas. And, as a creative, coming into it, there's people that just kind of, what about this? And they're like totally off brand and you don't ever want to listen to them, and then there's people that actually are contributors, and then you're like getting more out of them and more out of them before you know it, it's your story. You're doing a video.
That's so true. And I think like also first and foremost for any creatives that are listening to this, like, knowing my shit was the first step. Like being really, really good as I possibly could be, and training myself and educating myself in film and photography, and just being so understanding of my camera and my ability to create stories and wanting to tell stories. That was like the first step before even getting in and helping try to excel others. Like you can get in and just be like, hey, let me carry your heavy stuff. And you could do that all day long and everyone will be like, thank you. But if you can't add the value creatively, you'll never really see that growth. And I think a lot of people try to get into this right away without spending that time developing that skills, those 10,000 hours, and like really putting in that time. And I'm not saying I was a genius when I moved here, but I had a really good grounds to be able to create and at least wow people on the fly and on a budget. Like I was going in and, by being this so imagine Chris's documentary, we worked on that for well over a year. That time, the co-editing credit didn't come until close to the end of the year, like being able to decide like, oh, Ben, this is who this guy was this whole time in the room. So I'm just this random person. And my wow factor was, oh, I have a drone and I'm really talented at flying my drone. And you guys don't know about drones out here yet, like unless you're paying a ton of money. So when we're on set for a Chris Brown music video and I'm just like the behind the scenes guy, or I'm just like I don't even know if I had a role sometimes. I'd just be there. I'd be like, hey, I have this drone. Do you guys want to get a shot of this, whatever it is? Get the exterior shot of this building or him coming down the street, whatever. And they'd be like, yeah, can we do that? And I would do it and it would be in a Chris Brown music video. And so being able to have the skill set, the knowledge, and then be able to apply that. And then you really, really learn because you're going to college. Like I graduated to college when I got here, and I'm getting my master's in everything. And you start to learn the business. You start to learn how budgets are used and how teams are built, the legalities of shit. Like you really start to pick up on that. But just having a solid foundation and then being able to apply that, plus caring about helping everyone else, and like you said, no hopes of anything in return. That was like the biggest lesson I learned, like when I was actually in real college, reading a book that had nothing to do with the school that I was at.
Yeah, well, no, that's interesting. So Derral, you say bring value, then you also say know your shit. I mean that's a really good combo. And Derral, I mean, I would have to say you and Ben have similar parallels in your careers.
Absolutely.
One thing with Derral is, he runs a variety of YouTube channels that he keeps, he doesn't talk about that much. He doesn't flaunt his stuff, but he has like over 20 million subscribers and is doing really successful. But he is always working on a variety of projects, from, being a producer to Mr. Beast. Where he has to bring value if you're going to, work with that legend. To launching, this last year, one of the most successful TV series that have been launched, in 2019 and 2020. And Derral, I mean, maybe, give some of your perspective as well on what you do to bring value to the equation. Because from my perspective, when we first started collaborating and becoming friends, I remember something that you would consistently say to new groups that you're working with is that, hey, you don't need to pay me. And this is after you've already created so much credibility. You'd go to the table and say, hey, I just love what you're doing. I want to learn more. You don't need to pay me. Let's just collaborate. That's what you did with the Harmons. I mean, and when we collaborated, with the piano guys, David Archuleta and Peter Hollins around that, on Christmas video. But that's something I've noticed you do. Can you take us deeper into that process, because your hands are everywhere and you're bringing so much value to so many people.
Well, I get paid now, Ricky. let's just make that clear.
Even back then,
but even
back then you got paid.
The value sometimes to come in and just, you may have the extra time that day and be like, oh, I'm going to weigh in and help. I heard you on Clubhouse with Pat Flynn, I think, was it? Yeah. Maybe you were.
Yep.
So I was on Clubhouse and you were up there and I was listening to you guys and I was like, oh, wow, this is great. And you're just fishing gems to people. It's not like you were getting paid. I'm assuming you weren't getting paid.
No,
I don't think that's built into Clubhouse yet. You know what I'm saying? But like that knowledge and those nuggets, the reason why we do this stuff, it's like this can go a long way for certain people. And you never know how this turns into working relationships as well. You know what I mean? Just like learning about each other.
Well, I think where it all started though, Ricky, though, is honestly, it's like, for me, when you find what you're passionate and what you love, then money isn't necessarily like, because I'm not motivated by money by no means. Yes, it's great and it's means to an end, but I'm more motivated by accomplishing things that get me to my end goal, and like when you have that passion, I think that's the same with Ben here, like he went all in, moved to LA. Like how many people's done that? A lot of people. The difference was it wasn't slowing down, looking for every opportunity to bring value. And I think that's where it is. And for me, it's easy, because like I'm passionate about it, about a lot of stuff that I want to accomplish. And I can put my expertise behind it, make that become a thing. And before you know it, that's one other thing that you've done that made an impact in this world. And so, I learned it's more about surrounding yourself by the right people that are motivated the same way that you're motivated. Like if I was surrounded by people that were toxic and ripping people down and just selfish, looking at all that, that's what I would become. And so I'd rather find people that are trying to make a difference in the world in their own sphere. And if you really look at every project that I've done, it's people trying to make a difference in the world, because I think if we're just here and we have influence, we should use that influence to make the world a better place, and for me, it's using entertainment and content to counterbalance, people's depression or anxiety or, just kind of the way they think at times. There's a lot of challenges that we face. And so I do know this, though, is there becomes a point when you should get paid. And like, I usually do what we call a toe in the water campaign, where I do a toe in the water and I prove the value that I can bring. And then the next project will always be, there will always be money attached to it. Always. And there's always new opportunities if you brought value, so much value into that relationship. And I like to make sure that I'm not wasting times, because I don't want to do a project with people that are different. They have different ways of looking at things than I do. And I don't mean that in a bad sense. I mean, if their objective is, oh, we're going to do this, and this, and it goes against my belief system, I don't want to be associated with that for a long period of time on a super big project that we're kind of bound together in contract, So I don't know. And reading about you, Ben, I heard that, I mean, and you kind of validated a lot in this podcast too, is you're kind of the same way, just looking for your passion to be, to go to that next level. And you just did, some stuff with Beyonce, and I mean, there's some really cool projects that you've done. And like, how have you used that to get to the next project, and how has it opened up more doors?
Yeah. And I love what you were just saying. It's so true. It was well said. Don't even want to add anything to it. You just fucking nailed it on the head.
It's very rare when that happens with Derral, just so you know.
Come on, Derral.
You need the DJ horn, man. No, I mean, yeah, like, I think that you progress and you start to learn how to talk too, like being able to understand the language and what people are looking for and how to make people feel extremely comfortable. Like from a brand side, when I started working with brands and artists, it's about comfortability and confidence. And, it's one thing to just like lie and just go in there and not know what you're doing. And you could just talk it all you want, but then you fail at the end. But being able to be so confident in what you're creating and achieve that and prove that by the quality of the work, but also the quickness and being able to be relatability and have all the knowledge on the inside of the content that you're creating. All that stuff comes into play. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's like, if I didn't come in confident with any of the artists I worked with, I don't think I would ever be brought back, or I don't think I would have succeeded in those moments. I don't, like, the first time working with Beyonce was like, I didn't really know I was going there to work with her. I was just told to bring like docu-style cameras and shoot, and that turned into me like having, a year-long run with her. But being able to go in there and then quickly think of, how can I, tell an interesting story here? What can I do to make them want to have me come back? And I think it's just using all the skill sets and knowledge and the storytelling ability that I had, built up over the last 10 plus years in this shit, and try to apply that to that one day. And that turned into me, getting to work with her on a massive Netflix film that won a Grammy for best music film, and go to travel around the world with her and Jay-Z for the OTR2 tour in 2018. Lots of things come from that, but I think it is just putting pressure on yourself and believing in yourself, like really believing in yourself to like take it to the next level, or always complete this project better than you intended, or just, I don't know. I don't really know how to chalk it up besides just like having belief in yourself.
No, I love that. I mean, you said two words that just like stuck out to me, and I'm sorry, I'm like dissecting a lot of the things that you're saying, but it's actually, I mean, it's very profound. Making people feel comfortable, being confident. I mean, that's something that's just really important to remember. One thing where we have to be really careful as an organization is making sure that we have the right people, as a part of our organization, working with either, celebrities, thought leaders, producers, influencers, creators. And that's something that is a talent. As you collaborate with different people, especially people that have influence and fame, it can be very difficult to make them feel comfortable with a new face, or, to feel confident in somebody new, because there's a lot of people out there that want to either be a fanboy or fangirl and like do a selfie and act like they're awestruck. And even though that's flattering, it's not something that helps build friendship. And so, as we get like new recruits and new people in our org, we make it a policy that you do not do selfies. You do not, discuss, superficial things around people's fame, etc. You are there to work and to bring value. Is that something that you think more people should, learn when interacting with people of the likes of like a Jay-Z, a Beyonce, Chris Brown, or others?
Yes. I mean, if I would have whipped out my phone and grabbed like a IG story of B and J the first time I saw them when they were like in their comfortable space, like that's the biggest no in the world. And I get it. Like you could be at a party or whatever, and there's like the opportunity to do that type of stuff and get like videos of whatever's happening. But like to me, that's always the last thing I could ever care about. Like my first priority is making my client feel comfortable and that I'm trustworthy. That this content that I'm capturing, especially when it comes to documentaries, I've made 4 of them now. It's like if I were in the studio in the Mary J. Blige documentary, she goes through a divorce during that film. And I'm with her like right after she finds out about all this shit that went down, and she goes to the studio and she tries to write about it. And it's me in the booth with her singing, and she's breaking down while she's singing this chorus that they just wrote. And it was the most moving moment of my life. And to be in that room, to hear her sing that close is like really weird. You know what I mean? Like it's insane. But then to have just be like, man, that was crazy. I need to upload this to Instagram. Like I would have never been allowed, like that would have gone with me till the day I was dead. Like this is not a guy that you want to work with because he's leaking content and stuff. So it's always about like, I understand social is a currency and there's times and place to fight for the ability to have that sharing component of your job. But like these people are the gatekeepers to like what we do, and we need to make them happy, and we need to make sure that all this stuff is safe and that we can curate the content that they want to put out. It's their image, their likeness first. Cause you never know, like that, look at paparazzi and the way they take content, and they'll make someone look like, oh, look, this person gained 30 pounds, blah, blah, blah. But really it was just like an odd shot of them like bending over or something. And then that person's like humiliated. And it's like, you don't want to be that person that leaks some weird shit like that, or, put someone in a weird position. So I do think it's all about just like making sure you're building the trust with your client and making sure that they're happy about that, Yeah,
I want to talk about this because this is something I'm super passionate about. Because I think at the end of the day, there's so much focus on these influencer celebrities, and they have this public persona that they're trying to do. And I know that there's so many times they just want normal conversations, and they want normal friends, and they want people to confide in, but their defenses are up because, you never know. And so I have 5 kids, and we got 2 rules in the house when we're dealing, with my work. The first rule is, never, ever ask if you can get a selfie. There's just no ifs, ands, and buts about it. And the second thing is just talk like they're normal, and that's the whole thing. And so, we're interacting with some very big names and people that everyone knows who they are. And what's cool about it is, we might be in the backyard playing b-ball with them. And it's like, okay, we got that going on. You hear, like, there's not too many people. They might get a selfie, but they're not playing, for 2 hours in the backyard with one of the biggest YouTubers of all time. It's just like, it's that. But what I love is when you do that, that's where the relationship of trust really happens, because they know that you can understand what they're going through, or they can at least confide a little bit. And I know, I have a son that, big creators DM him all the time, text him, hey, what's up, man? When are you going to come hang out with us? And this is just like independent. So they think that he's cool. It's, they have a great relationship, and, he's spent a lot of time with some great people and learning from them. And that's what I want. I want him to go and learn from them, with their shield down, that they can say, okay, this is kind of the ways that you can see and navigate the industry. And so I think there's a lot to learn. And I think it does devalue quite a bit, because as soon as I can guarantee you, anyone, as soon as you pull that phone out and say, okay, can I do a selfie? You now took from, hey, being someone that they could relate to as a peer or a friend to a fan. And that's a big difference. And it might take a while to overcome that.
It always drove me, like, it's insane to be in like public events and stuff. Like I get like when we play concerts, like especially with B&J on tour, like you're playing concerts, everyone's there to see you and they're starstruck and all that shit. So they want to get content. But when we would go to like events or random like award shows, it's just so interesting from a docu style. Like when I'm there just observing, to see how people try to get their moment with this person or how they use their moment. And like you said, being able to you take your phone out, automatically changes their perception of who you are and what your intention is, where you could try to really build with someone, where you'll see someone come up and just handshake and say, how are you, et cetera, and they're like, oh, I'm good. And then that's it. Or you see the person walk up and they wait in a weird way. They're just sitting there like leeches and waiting for that one moment to just fly in with their phone and be like, yeah. And they're not even looking at the person that they wanted to get the content with anymore. They're looking at the fucking phone. And I'm like, yo, what? Like, you just, out of the rare opportunity, this person's so famous, you had the chance to be in the same room with this person and you could have your elevator pitch or your 30 seconds to connect or whatever it is. And you didn't even look. You didn't look at them. Like, that's so bizarre. But I love that, you especially with your family, like being able to teach them that element, because it is, especially when I moved out here, it was like I was in some cool shit. Like I was in some cool rooms. I'm seeing some cool exclusive content, and it was like big media. And I can't post about it. I'm not going to share about it. I didn't care. Like, especially when I started working with Beyonce, it's like no one's filming. You don't post anything on social media. When we started working on Coachella, we were rehearsing for months, and I just disappeared on the internet, and I could not care. I didn't care. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't care about updating my people about what I'm doing today or blah, 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 to keep up with this social persona. I went off the grid. And then when I finally came back and was like, yo, we made this thing, people were like blown away by it. And it makes sense because you disappeared. But if I would have been caring about my social content, I wouldn't have been making the film that we made for Coachella. I wouldn't have created and shot the film the right way. You know what I mean? I would have been distracted. So I do agree. It's an interesting topic, especially when you start working with these people that are just so well known, I
mean, as you connect with them and if you can make them feel comfortable and confident in you, I mean, they're going to be the ones that are going to suggest, taking a picture. And not saying that should ever be the goal, but like that's just something that will naturally happen as a result of it. There's actually a funny story around this. As I started off with the preaching of like no posting pictures and making people feel like you're awestruck, etc. There was a fun experience where I was at this party a couple years ago. It was at Drew Carey's house, and he was throwing this little like shindig. And there's this person that I kept like talking to, and we were like, I mean, I feel like I was like, him and I were connecting and everything, and I thought it was so cool because his name was Christ, but starting with a K, and I kept calling him that name, and he'd always like I think try to correct me like, oh, it's Christ, and then I'd keep forgetting. Well, I then found out that it was the bassist of Nirvana. And I kept calling the wrong name over and over again as we chatted. But like it was one of those times where he asked if I wanted a picture and all that stuff. I was like, oh, for sure. But like it was just really funny because sometimes I actually think coming into this space and not being like way into pop culture has been something that's been very helpful. Now, I am a huge fan of Nirvana, but I mean, even though I was like a huge fan and all the albums growing up and everything, I didn't for some reason I didn't recognize that person. I'm Chris in that setting. But
the struggle that bass players go through. This is a struggle.
Right. But to be honest though, with that said, if you're going into entertainment and the whole purpose, is to meet famous people or to become famous or anything like that, I mean, you're not. I mean, I don't think that's good enough of a motive, or it brings enough value to the table to make it in this space. It's truly finding all the opportunities out there and areas where you can innovate and where you can bring value, as both you and Derral have talked about, where you can come in here. I mean, come in and be a part of the content or creative community. But,
well, I think that's the biggest issue is and with the entertainment industry is like, hey, you could be famous by proximity. Like if you're close to those people and you can validate it either with a photo or a video, then you now become famous. And that's not necessarily the case for my degree. And I think that's a really big misstep, because in your mind as a person, I'm surrounded by all these people. It's like people that name drop 50 million different celebrities or people that they're connected to. I'm like, I don't care about that. And I think at the end of the day, it's like really getting that value. Like if you want to make a difference, regardless of where you're at, it's just bringing value to the situation that you're in. And sometimes it could just be, hey, do you know what? And this is what I've noticed that I'm pretty good at is you can see that one person, that creeper that is coming over or whatever. They're going to make a very awkward moment with someone that you love and trust and, is there. And you could become a deflector, right? And like that right there, it's like these awkward moments that happen every single time. And yes, I understand the celebrity base, but that one act can actually lead to a deeper friendship, because they're like, hey, they really do have my back. This guy was coming in because you could see the fear of God, like literally in their face, and you just kind of deflect it, and then it's like, oh, okay.
That's an awesome tactic. I've done that so many times with the artists we work with, where you tell that someone's just coming in to do some leeching shit, and if you can like really deflect them or ruin their photo somehow. Oops, sorry. That's such a key move and would make whoever it is so appreciative, because they know that you just save them from like having to. That's the worst part of, I think, for a celebrity at that size, is like they're constantly judged on their image to an extent, and they feel like they have to play the role. They have to put the suit on when they go outside their home and be completely in. That's like the big thing, is when you get into these rooms and they feel so comfortable to not have to think like that. That's when you're really winning. When you can make that person feel like they can have their guard all the way down. They know that you're not some person who's recording Donald Trump with your phone in your pocket and you're catching the pussy thing in the van or the bus or doing some weird shit like that. Like they can trust you to let their guard down. That's like what these people are looking for. I'd be curious about you guys too. Like I found one of my biggest tactics to getting clients to trust me, or to like get clients in general, whether it's an artist to build a relationship or even to connect with other creators, is like somehow when I'm in that first meet and greet conversation, I figure like if I was talking to the bass player in Nirvana, I would try and find something I could tie to them that they would relate to so much. Or a person that we may know. Somehow I'm able to, like, I have the worst memory in the world. I have dysnomia. I was diagnosed with that in 5th grade. Short-term memory loss. I can't access things in my head sometimes very quickly. And somehow in those conversations, I'm like, boom, boom, boom. I'm just like able to fire off, oh, yo, we know blah, 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 blah. And it would be cool if you did this. And they're like, wow. And that always ends up turning into like this, yeah, we met each other, we're nice. And then I try to add some sort of value in that exchange of like, what if we did something like this? And like, wait, who are like Hannibal? We just had Hannibal in that NFL gig, and he just emailed me something randomly, and I'm just like, yo. Also, what if you did this on your YouTube channel? And he's like, oh, that's cool. Now we have a call later this week. But it wasn't. The conversation didn't turn into like a let's keep talking thing. It was just like a hey, here's a file, and then it was like, yo, let's build a better relationship. So Hannibal Buress is like such an ill comedian, and now it's a quick exchange over email. Now we have a phone call booked, and it's like, by providing value, I've built so many relationships and can keep building. I think there was like one party I was at, this crazy house party, Justin Bieber's old crib in the hills or whatever, and I'm out there. And there's all these celebrities, and it was actually a really dope event. And we should all take, like, this is a cool idea for post-COVID. There's like 3 different film director, a music producer, and an actor all told everyone it was their birthday, and they just rented a house to build like a networking party between all the different fields. So everyone showed up for these birthday parties, but it wasn't no one's birthday, and all these celebrities came together, and like actors, directors, film people. And I was in this conversation with this dude for like 40 minutes because he sounded like he wasn't from here. I was like, where are you from? He's Europe. And he's like, yeah. And then he's like, where are you from? I'm like, Iowa. And he pulls up on his phone. He's got pictures of him in Iowa, like really recently in front of a college that I would go to all the time. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, you're from like, I don't know, London or whatever. How do you have these pictures? He's like, man, I love Iowa. My girlfriend's from there. She's a screenwriter. And I was like, oh shit. So we talked for 45 minutes about Iowa and then how we got into filmmaking and stuff. And then it turns out he like directed Star Wars and all these other things. And it was just such a casual conversation. And I didn't leech when I learned that about him. You know what I mean? Like, I think that made our conversation so comfortable to build a relationship that way. So I think by being able to just like connect dots however you can in the conversation to build like a longevity in that relationship immediately is so key.
Oh, for sure. Ben, what project like sticks out to you that you've worked on that was the most fulfilling?
I don't know. It's a good question because you want to go into, say, Beyonce and Jay, like working with them or working with B on the Homecoming documentary is like such a massive, impactful film on Netflix. And my work, like I did like this, steady cam operating for that film, like during the concert. And one of those clips is like the most shared and viewed clip ever for Coachella, like, which is so crazy that I shot that. And just the hard work that went into that, and to be able to work with an artist at her level is amazing. But honestly, I don't know. They all have their perks because each job is like a new step forward where I want to go. And I'm always so grateful for that. I'm always just so happy to have been a part of that, or have slept on a floor and went and shot Mary J. Blige, Taylor Swift at Staples Center, and think like, holy shit, I just shot this massive performance. I'm going to edit this video tonight, and I'm back sleeping on an air mattress with like 3 holes in it. And like there's nothing more fulfilling and gratifying than being able just to have been in that room and thinking where I was not too long ago in Iowa, dreaming about being able to participate and create for artists like that. And so I don't know, each one of them just has it. I'm just always grateful for every project,
Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining us. We ask this question to everyone that comes on, but like, what are you the most excited about, whether it's a platform or type of content that's out there that's really disrupting the industry?
Yeah, I mean, YouTube is I love it. It's crazy. I'm not great on it. It's like our channel is just a podcast for a long time, but now we're shifting to what we're going to create for education. I have Black Window Cream is a creative collective that I started during all of this, and this has like been my gift to creatives like me back in Iowa. I created like a private community where everyone's coming together and they're networking and they're building relationships and finding jobs. And so I've been really passionate about developing education. And so YouTube is such a massive space for that to not only distribute, but to find great resources. And I mean, you're working with Mr. Beast.
Yeah,
like this
you don't have to preach to the choir. I mean, I love you.
You
too.
already know. You already know. So like, just the way you can really, find growth and audience is so key there, and it's such a great platform. So definitely, if you're not using it, use it. You already know.
Well, great, Ricky. So this is it. We've done it. We've been consistent twice this year. How does that feel?
Well, hey Ben, thank you so much for joining us. You're someone that everyone I know that has worked closely with you has like such deep respect for you, and feel like they've become friends with you really quickly. And so we really appreciate you making time, and we'll have to do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on here. I'm excited to hear episode 3. See that come out within 1 week after this one. You know what I mean? See it keep on cracking off.
We're cracking something. Guys, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. You can go ahead and follow or subscribe, whatever that is, wherever you're at. And we'll see you guys on the next podcast.